Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey. It is Spook Week. I'm your host, Kerry Arnold. With me, as always, producer co-host Smith Daniela Iolo. How are you, dear?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good to see you. It is tomorrow's gonna be our last day. This is just something we do every year. It's kind of more for entertainment, I think, than usually what we do is about information. And if it happens to be entertaining, then all the better. But I think for Spook Week, we just try to get into the spirit, and no pun intended, and try to tell some creepy stories. It's not all Bigfoot, but I think tonight we might get into some, and definitely tomorrow. But our guest tonight, he's the creator of Media Palace, Eric Palacio. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely, man. It's good to have you. Actually, was turned on to your channel by one of our co-hosts here, Iron Dogger.
Oh, Jackie. Yeah. Oh, she's great. Yeah, I love her.
Yeah, she told me because I don't. If it's not sent to me, I don't watch it. So I get sent lots of stuff, and I watched one of the. I think it was one of your lives. It might have been the last one you did. I don't know that I joined in, but that looked pretty interesting. What was kind of? I'll tell you what. Before we do any of that, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and then we'll get into some of the stuff you do.
Sure. Well, I started in public broadcast probably about right out of school, and I did that for about 10 years. So I'm here from Austin, Texas, born and raised. So I did a lot of the local events, did stuff for news, did like the Austin Music Awards for every year, did a bunch of stuff. Any sporting event that came through, we were there to cover it. And so in 2013, it actually got sold to a company out of Denver. And from there, I started Media Palace, which was kind of a freelance media production company where we essentially did the same thing. I covered all the combat sports that came through, boxing, mixed martial arts, and other sports like soccer and baseball and stuff like that. So that's really where I got my start as far as production and stuff. And for my last two projects, the documentaries that I worked on, I was seeing stuff in the news in my hometown that I just couldn't really ignore. And once I started digging deeper into it, it kind of took me down the Bigfoot rabbit hole. And I'll be the first one to say it. I'm not really a Bigfoot researcher by any means. My background is more in journalism. But when I started researching what was going on in my local town, it seemed to be pretty Bigfoot related. There was a lot of interesting Bigfoot activity in the area. And that's really what got me started down this rabbit hole here.
So what was going on? Is that one of the posters you have behind
Sure,
you?
Yeah,
One of the marquees?
Yeah, these are the documentaries that I did. The Legend of Hairy Man Road was the most recent one that I did. The one I did before that was The Beast of Brushy Creek. Say it in a nutshell, there has been a body here in where I'm from, Williamson County, that's been found in a body of water every year since 2016. And
a human body, you mean?
Human bodies, yes, human bodies. And the circumstances around those bodies popping up are incredibly mysterious, and the stuff we get from the authorities is always just a one article news page that doesn't really give us much information. All the bodies were found with apparently no trauma and suspected of no foul play. And so in 2016 alone, there were three bodies that were discovered in the Brushy Creek, and two of the bodies were actually 6 days apart. And now the funny thing is, in 2016, we were actually named one of the safest cities in America. So
probably shouldn't have done that.
Exactly. Yeah, that doesn't really make a lot of sense when you're getting bodies in a 6-month period, 3 bodies in a 6-month period. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So when I started, digging down that rabbit hole, it just got really weird really quick. Now we've always had Bigfoot activity in the area. There's a certain road here. It's called Hairy Man Road. And it got its name in 1965 when a boy, Shorty Caldwell, who was actually a local high school football star, was chased out of the area by what he described as a wild hairy man. And even prior to that, in the 1800s, there's accounts of settlers traveling in covered wagon that were chased off this road by a wild hairy man. And it was often seen hanging from the trees, and it would leap down and scare the local travelers that were passing through. And so we've always had Bigfoot activity here in Central Texas. It kind of gets overshadowed by the stuff in East Texas, like the Big Thicket area. But, it's an ongoing thing. It's still happening, right now as we speak. The latest, I recently, I think it was probably about 2 months ago, I had someone contact me saying they were on one of the Brushy Creek trails and they were getting pebbles thrown at them, which is, I've heard that's one of the things that,
Yeah.
a lot of activity,
Hear
stuff
that a
like
lot.
that. But so that's really what got me into producing the first documentary, The Beast of Brushy Creek. It's because I was seeing this stuff in news reports, and even the local people had no idea. I would bring it up to local people, and they would just be like, "Oh, wow, really? They'd never heard of it." And I think what's going on is I might get in trouble for saying this, but I think the media and the local government in the area knows what's going on. They could actively be participating in the cover up unknowingly or maybe knowingly doing it. But and so I really, it weighed on me, after seeing this every year, for the past few years. No one was talking about it, so I really felt like I had to do something about it. And so that's really when I got started, and that that led me to The Beast of Brushy Creek, and then shortly after that, The Legend of Hairy Man Road. But
What do you think the cover up is then? What do you think it is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think they know what's going on here, and I think, like I said, they've. I don't want to. I have to be real careful of the way I'm phrasing this because I don't want to get in any trouble. I've had threats. People threaten me from working on the documentaries and stuff like that. But I think they are aware of a being that lives here, something that lives here, and the people in the highest levels of government, local government here, are aware of it. I don't think they know fully what it is, but to them, it's kind of like a mascot almost, and they're active in trying to communicate with us. I've had people, pretty reliable people, tell me that some people in highest levels of government here are. I think gifting is a thing Bigfoot people, Bigfoot researchers do. And so what I've heard is they're actually doing some type of ritualistic gifting. I'm not sure, I can't really say for 100%, but that's what people have been saying. And so, I think that could be what it is. And I can get into detail on why I think that. And there's actual proof of it. There's proof that the FBI has been involved in the search for Bigfoot here where I am. It's a fact. It's a fact, And so if you guys want, I can get into the bodies, every body that's been discovered, and tell you, because I know like the missing 411 is like a big thing, and this kind of seems like I think the clusters are a big deal for the missing 411. And if there's ever been a cluster, man, it's right here in Central Texas.
And you think these fit those criteria? To me, even if they know it's out there, they don't know what to do about it. In my mind, what are they going to do? Maybe it's easier for them not to sensationalize and stir people up, because people look to the news and media, for answers.
No, absolutely. I think you're right. And some of the people that were being discovered, I think they do meet some of that criteria, and some of it is just plain weird, really weird and odd. The last body was discovered was in 2019, and that was a 77-year-old man that was found off the Brushy Creek Trail, and he was found in the Brushy Creek. Now, for him to get in the Brushy Creek, it's a very heavily fenced with barbed wire area. Okay. So this man, 77 years old, would have had to have climbed over the fence, climbed down to the river, and died. To me, that makes absolutely no sense. And, they said he was missing, I believe, for a day and a half, maybe 2 days. And, in my opinion, there was no way a 77-year-old man would be able to scale that barbed wire fence and climb down to the creek and just die like that. It made absolutely no sense. And that seems to be a pattern of what's going on here. In the documentary, The Beast of Brushy Creek, the first body they found was in May in a creek, in the Brushy Creek. And the medical examiner, I know his son, I went to school with his son. He said it right in front of the cameras. He said, well, definitely a death in a creek is suspicious, and we're investigating. And then they came out later saying it was no trauma, no foul play. And the guy was like 40 years old. They found his car 5 miles away at a local car wash. Like it didn't make any type of sense. No one knows how he got there, you know. And the fact that there was no trauma, foul play, you would, you know, if it was a drowning, I think they would have said drowning, you know,
Water in the lungs. Yeah,
exactly. They wouldn't, you know, mess
What
around with that
was
stuff.
the cause of death then?
We don't know. We have no idea what the cause of death was.
Right.
We just know he died. And a lot of people have speculated saying they're homeless people or they're immigrants and stuff like that. I'm not sure people know how far we are away from the border. We're a ways away from the border. We're here just north of Austin, Texas. So we're a good ways away. And these people are normal people, everyday people. They're family people. They had kids and, you know, they're young. This guy was 40 years old. The one that was found right after him we don't know anything about that guy. We don't know if it was a man, woman. This was in October. We have no idea. We just know that there was a body discovered in October, I want to say 16th. And we have no idea, man, woman, no cause of death, no identity, absolutely nothing. And then 6 days later, we have a monument here. It's called the Round Rock. That's what the town we live in is, Round Rock, okay? It's a giant rock that sticks out of the Brushy Creek. It's a very populated area, okay? They found this other guy's body 6 days after the last one near the Round Rock in the Brushy Creek. And again, we don't have any answers. We don't know if it's foul play. You know, they always say no foul play, no trauma. Didn't say anything about drowning. And I actually did a Freedom of Information Act on this last one, the one I'm telling you about now. And what I got back was an exemption. Now, an exemption for a death is really weird. Normally, if it was just a normal death, they'd say, oh, you know, cause of death X, you know, that's what they would say. But the fact that I got an exemption, it could be one of a few things. It could mean that it's an ongoing investigation. It could mean that it's information that we don't need to know, or it could mean that an alphabet agency is involved. Those are the criteria they give you once you get an exemption. So for a death in a small town that was ranked, you know, top 10 safest cities in America, that really makes absolutely no sense to me. You know, it's just a weird cluster of events that just keep going on. And like I said, we've had activity here since the 1800s. That road, Harryman Road, it got its name for a reason in 1965. Right. But there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on here. And I don't want to jump the gun too fast, but after those bodies had been found, the local director of the FBI here in Texas sent an email to the chief of police of Round Rock, okay? Let me pull up that email just so I can read it verbatim and tell you guys what it says. And this is a fact. This is to me, this is like a smoking gun. You can't.
Now, where is Round Rock in relation?
Round Rock it's just north of Austin, in between Austin and Georgetown. You know, right on. You know, it's grown a lot now, but it was like a small suburb of Austin. Okay. And so the email actually says, Chief. This is from the director of FBI. Okay. It says, Chief, it has come to our attention that Bigfoot has been seen in Round Rock. We are very concerned and plan to nominate him to the FBI Top 10. Please see the attached wanted poster. Any help your department needs in finding Bigfoot, we will assist. Christopher Combs, Special Agent in Charge, Federal Bureau of Investigations. Guys, that's like a smoking gun right there. Not only that, but he attached a Bigfoot poster to it, okay? Now, Kerry, Daniela, when have you known the FBI to be a joking organization? Do they play?
Yeah, not really. It does seem a little off, especially to say this is what it looks like. This is what we're looking for. What was the picture they sent?
This is really interesting. The picture was a picture of Patty. Now, it could have been a drawing. It could have been like some outlandish cartoon, you know, big teeth or whatever. But the fact that it was actually a picture of Patty was, to me, that was really odd. Not only that, but in the description, it talked about how it was last seen off the Brushy Creek doing like a demonic howl, and it's scaring campers and terrorizing campers. Now, if it's all a joke, why wouldn't you say, oh, Bigfoot's been seen, you know, jumping around paths in Brushy Creek, or, you know, picking flowers or whatever? You're not going to say something like it was last seen giving off a demonic howl off the Brushy Creek. Why would you say that?
Well, do you know for sure that this Chris Combs guy is with the FBI, that it actually came from them and it's not someone just messing around?
Kerry, I'm glad you asked that question, because I know it came from Christopher Combs. You can go to his social media page. If anyone has ever been qualified to be an Men in Black or whatever, this guy is probably the head of the Men in Black. You can go to his social media stuff. I think it's LinkedIn, and his credentials are miles and miles long. And then I have one of his credentials right here that says oversees all FBI presence in Central and South Texas, including the border, 680 employees. This is where it gets interesting. Direct physical security, access control, safeguard of classified information, and safety of over 10 overt and covert secret facilities. Okay, that's Christopher Combe. So the same guy who's talking about searching for Bigfoot is in charge of classified information and secret bases. You can go look this up. It's a fact. Like, it's not disputable. The FBI was looking for Bigfoot here in Central Texas. They put out a poster because, in my opinion, I think, well, I was here. People were scared. There was 3 bodies found in a really small town in a short period of time. And all of a sudden, the FBI jumped on, and they were looking for Bigfoot in the area. That's a fact. That can't be disputed. They sent an email to the
Bigfoot's killed these people?
I'm not saying it was Bigfoot.
What's the connection with Bigfoot and these bodies?
That's the connection. To me, that's the connection right there. After the bodies show up, the FBI starts looking for Bigfoot. To me, that's kind of strange. And like I said, the Brushy Creek has always been affiliated with that phenomenon, the hairy man phenomenon here. It's been an ongoing thing. So we're here along the Balcones Escarpment. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's basically a mini Grand Canyon that runs from the border of Mexico almost all the way up to the border of Oklahoma. There's been people that have lived in this area for thousands of years. At the time, the oldest complete skeleton was found here off of the Brushy Creek. It was called the Neanderthal woman. She's 13,000 years old. That shows you how long people have been in the area, living here. And the Tonkawa tribe was a tribe that lived here in the area, which is a really strange and weird tribe all by themselves. I wasn't really a fan of tree structures, right? Tree structures, that's a thing. I wasn't really a fan of tree structures until I learned the Tonkawa actually used tree structures. They would bend trees certain ways to show where water would flow. And so, all of this and there's pictures of it in the documentary, and you can find that. So all of this stuff together, I'm not saying Bigfoot killed these people. I'm saying the FBI started looking after these bodies started popping up. That's what I'm saying. Right. To me, that's a really strange coincidence. And you guys want to know what happened after this in 2017? So the Brushy Creek was actually closed for portions of the Brushy Creek Trail were closed because people were scared. People were frightened. So when they were actually looking for Bigfoot here, portions of that trail were closed. People weren't going out. So the fact that they put that out at the same time was really strange to me. It's really odd. I don't know. But I think it was like 4 months after that, 2 bodies were found. One was a body in the Brushy Creek, and the other was skeletal remains. We have no identity for either. We don't know if they're man, woman, how they died. We don't know anything about that. So,
well, you can tell a male from a female skeleton. Sure. They're just not releasing that information.
That's what I'm saying. Sure, you can. You can tell they know what's going on.
Right.
But they're not releasing that information to the public for whatever reasons. I have no idea why that could be.
To me, it's more suspicious that they're not. You would think if they wanted to really, keep it under wraps, they would just tell you something. But the fact that they're keeping it hidden is they're giving themselves away, essentially. People are not stupid.
No, and the other thing is, the Freedom of Information Act, to me, that was a big red flag too. If it was just a death, they would be death by drowning or death by, whatever.
Right. So I wonder if it's an ongoing investigation is why they can't confirm or deny anything.
I think it's both. I think it's an ongoing investigation, and I think the alphabet agencies are involved in it. I think it's both.
Well, I think they have to be. Someone has to be, whether it's some alphabet agency or some agency that we don't know about that has been.
That's a good point.
The progenitors of this studying them or whatever they're doing.
No, that's a really good point. I had not even thought about that, but now that you're saying that makes some sense.
There's a place in Florida, and these things have been witnessed several times, but they are craft. They're about 3 feet wide, silent, fly very fast. You cannot see it with your eye. You cannot see it with thermal, but through night vision, you can pick them up, and they will emit an infrared beam. Got images of on trail cam of this beam coming down, and
Wow.
then it's been seen several times. Yeah, well, it's just not getting out there. I only know 3 people that have witnessed it, and I talked to all 3 of them. And
yeah, I'm
but
saying
think
I've
about
never
what
heard
it would
that.
take. Think about what it would take, Eric, to study a Sasquatch. What are you going to need? Especially to study them in their natural environment. We couldn't do it. They know we're coming. You would have to have something like that. And it's in this area where these creatures are just everywhere in this place. You can't hardly go through there without picking up some kind of evidence. If you're not hearing them or smelling them directly, there's footprints. I mean, hundreds of tracks, huge, massive tracks in there, and small ones too, even 3-inch baby ones.
Well,
so
the fact that I'm saying I've never heard of
doing.
it, the fact that I'm saying I've never heard of it is kind of foolish, because a lot of people have never heard about this, about the FBI actually looking for Bigfoot in the area. Guys, that's a fact. That's not disputable. That was put out. They made a poster that said, we're looking for Bigfoot in the area. Now, if you want to know something crazy, the day that was released, that email was released, I looked on the BFRO website, right? BFRO, and they had an encounter in Williamson County, Brushy Creek, the same day that news was leaked. So that could tell you one of 2 things. That could tell you the FBI is actively monitoring these sites, these community sites, or they could be putting out, false information. It's one of the 2, but they're definitely involved. That's a fact that can't be disputed. They sent out this email. And the thing is, they have to spend resources on that. People have to answer those emails. They have to answer those calls. On the thing, it says, please, contact your local FBI and consulate. Like, the fact that it puts that was really strange and odd to me. I have no idea why they would put that. But I mean,
they must know that it's some rogue that's killing people. I mean, to me, that's the only thing that makes any sense, because Sasquatch are seen all over the place, and this doesn't happen. You don't see the FBI show up unless, well, you heard the Dennis Martin story. The FBI showed up, the Green Berets showed up.
I've heard that.
It just seems to be that maybe that you got this rogue Sasquatch situation, and they can't pin it down, so they're trying to get all the help they can. Could be. Who knows?
Well, the other thing is that, so when I started working on this documentary, I went out to the Harryman Road when it was closed. All right, closed. And I talked to the people that were there working, and there were 2 city officials that were there. And one of them they had no idea I was recording, mind you. I was recording secret, hidden camera footage I was recording. And I started asking questions, and they straight up said, oh yeah, we've had a lot of people die out here. They've been hit by trees. Right after he says that, he says, someone saw a damn Sasquatch, And here in Texas, the word Sasquatch doesn't really come about much. You hear more Bigfoot. You hear the word Bigfoot a lot. So the fact that he used the word Sasquatch, to me, that kind of raised the red flag. That was really weird. And he just said, people have seen damn Sasquatch. And the way he said it was like some guy saw damn, this is like common knowledge to them, man. Yeah. And there was another guy that I had talked to, and I asked him, say, hey, you guys seen anything out here or whatever? And he's like, no, not really. And then he goes, well, that guy over there, he said he saw a big shadow behind a tree. And so I went and talked to that guy, and he started telling me about all these caves in the area. And he pointed us in the direction of one cave that was just like a tunnel straight down. And that's the thing about here in Brushy Creek, Williamson County. There are caves and caverns, crevices everywhere. I mean, if you're walking here at night, it's probably one of the most dangerous things you could do. Sinkholes everywhere. And he was telling us about these caves. There were 3 of them that he told me about. We found one. I couldn't find the other ones because the brush was so thick. But he said there was one cave that was big enough that he saw deer come in and out of that cave. To me, that's got to be a gigantic cavern system that these deer are traveling through, caverns or whatever. That's huge. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the area, but right here next to us, we have the Interspace Caverns, which is a gigantic cavern system that's massive. And there are a lot of portions of it that are not open to the public. But I mean, to me, I think there's got to be some type of huge underground cavern system that links all these tunnels together. That's just my opinion. but it would make a perfect place for something to hide. And, a lot of cover, especially I don't know if you've seen the documentary, but there's just curtains of brush. No one can see in or out. It's just insanely thick. So, I mean, this would be the perfect place for anybody to, for a big creature to hide. It wouldn't be discovered for a long time. But
was this one of the caves that was on this live that you did?
Yeah,
you were showing? There was a door.
Oh, that was another one. Yeah, that was another one.
Big metal door.
That was, I have no idea what that was. That was just one of the creepiest things I've ever seen and experienced in my life.
Where was that? Was it, I mean, you don't have to say where it was, but was it like by a road, by houses, or was it in the middle of nowhere? Well, I mean,
at the time it was in the middle of nowhere. Now there is a road that goes by it. But at the time it was discovered by construction workers. All right. And there's video in the documentary of when they actually found it. The guy's recording with his cell phone camera. He's shaking when he's looking at it because it's just such a creepy thing. It's a cavern that they dug out. Okay. So as they're digging it out, they find a huge stone wall, a huge heavy metal door that's rated to withstand a nuclear blast, and a huge gigantic stone face that's just really incredibly creepy, has no purpose being out there. And they discovered that while they're building a road. So they're digging it out and they're finding this. They were too scared to go in. And you can see the guys and they're just all around the door looking inside. None of them go inside. And the way I found that information was actually really weird and creepy by itself. But the guys
that wanted,
yeah, I went in. We went in. Yeah. And it was probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life because we didn't tell anybody where we were going. It was me and my friend David. We were in that cavern. If that door would have closed, no one would have been able to find us. We would have been stuck there, and that would have been game over for us. No cell phone signal, absolutely nothing. So I still have nightmares about that. I do. I wake up and it just scares the crap out of me just thinking about what could have happened out there. But when you go in, it's a gigantic cavern system. We never found the end of it. We went as far as we could, but we didn't have any gear. We weren't expecting to find it. I had to look with GPS coordinates and days of scouting. We actually found it. And we weren't prepared, but we wanted to go in just because we didn't want to, waste any time. We wanted to go in. We had the cameras that we needed. So we went in, and it was a gigantic cavern system that we never found the end to. And that could connect to the other caverns I was mentioning that are just kind of all around this area. But that door was made pre-1940. Is it capable of handling a nuclear blast? We looked it up. It's a Mosler door, and it only locks from the outside. So if it's a bomb shelter, I mean, you need a handle to come in and out of. So that kind of goes out the window right there. And the other thing is there's like breathing holes they made. There's like two little breathing holes. Breathing holes, I guess that's what you call them. So a lot of people were saying root cellar or, bomb shelter, but to me, that goes out the window when it's a door that only locks from the outside. Now, to me, my opinion, I think they were locking someone or something in there. And why would you need a gigantic, stone face there? What would that do? A gigantic, creepy stone face.
It took a lot of time to make interesting. That was very interesting when I saw that. The whole thing was just kind of strange to me. And look, if you had an old homestead, it only takes about 50 years for everything to be gone, for big trees to grow up, and it looks like nothing's ever been there. Mm-hmm. So whether it's something left over from some old homestead, but locking from the outside, I would probably tend to think either you're locking somebody up. I mean, I lock my shed locks from the outside, and that's it. So it's either that, but just the way it looked.
But why would you need a stone face right next to it? What is that?
I don't know. I saw that too, and I don't a deterrent. I mean, people were, look, especially back in the day, superstitious. I'm not superstitious because it's bad luck, but
well, the fact is
nobody ever gets that when I say that. I don't know why
they covered it up too. They filled it in. Like these guys dug it out. The construction workers dug it out because it took a lot of effort to do that. And for someone to just cover it up, I have no idea. Like that's just so weird, odd, strange to me. Why that's there. And that just adds to the other stuff that's been going on here. The bodies, the sightings that have happened since the 1800s, the road that's named Harryman Road, like all this stuff just kind of adds together. I hope I'm not rambling because I can do that. I can
No, it's
just
fine.
ramble off like that.
There's a
So,
good question here. Cansquatch asks, have you emailed the FBI or Coombs for clarification on reasons why the poster was put out?
Let's try to do that, Scott.
I've done both, and I haven't heard back from Combs. Surprise, surprise. But I'm doing another Freedom of Information Act to get that email thread. So I think that could be, if I get it, amazing, awesome. If I get another exemption, to me, that kind of says something too. So
have you emailed and said, look, I've got information about Bigfoot, get back to me ASAP?
I don't think he cares because I think he has more information than me, honestly.
Yeah, Dan, you got to tell him you got one. Hey, look, man, I've got this thing.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Well, I did. When I found that door, I was
Be there
getting,
in an hour.
when I found that door, I got a lot of threats. And people were telling me, I have the text saying, like, if you don't disclose this location, it could be 5 years in a federal prison and this, and that. Like, I'm like, how would you get 5 years for that? Like, it made no sense.
Is
But
it public land?
I'm not sure if it's public land, but
Trespassing is the only thing you're going to get.
sure, yeah.
Really?
But that's not going to be 5 years in a federal prison, I don't think.
No, people like to sensationalize things and
Sure.
and pretend they know more than you do.
Right.
So that happens a lot.
So, I mean, that kind of what spurred me into make these documentaries. People need to know about this. People have always wondered, is the FBI looking for Bigfoot? Have they been involved? 100%. It's a fact. You cannot dispute it. The emails out there, the posters out there, the FBI director from Texas sent that out. That cannot be disputed. He did that. And, and like I said, if it was not his name, if it was like another name or one of his underlings, it might not be so interesting. But the fact that it was him and he's in charge of secret information and secret military bases, to me, all that's red flags right there, like crazy.
Well, I wish look, even if they don't have any real information other than that, they know they're out there. If they would just disclose that, just give people the satisfaction of, okay, the FBI knows these creatures are actually out there. They did it with UFOs. They admitted that they don't know what it is, but that they are out there. And who actually knows what it is? I think they know exactly what it is. I wouldn't admit I knew what it was either. They could do the same thing with Sasquatch and at least, get the awareness up. People know these creatures are out there.
I think you're right. I think they do know. And I think, I would hope disclosures of just a few years away, but I have no idea. And it kind of feels like more, you kind of feel like it's getting closer to that point. They just can't deny it anymore just because of stuff like this going on in the public like that. But yeah.
Look, I make documentaries too for the very same reason. We've made 13. I'm working on the 14th one right now. And that's for the exact same reason, because no one else was doing it. No one else is talking to these people, these eyewitnesses that are having sightings. And I mean, you get to listen to them obviously on places like Sasquatch Chronicles and, Buckeye Bigfoot, Dixie Cryptid, these people reading other people's stories that they send in, but actually seeing where things happen and going to someone's place and filming around and talking to them, what they're experiencing, what they're going through. No one was really doing that. So that's what we decided to do. And that's actually what we do here. This live show is just something we started doing in between because it was 6 to 8 weeks between videos. And it's been 8 months since the last one now.
So. No, I know it takes a lot to produce it, man. It takes a whole lot. And the first one took me 2 years. That's how long the first one took me. It took me 2 years. And the bulk of that was waiting to get the Freedom of Information Acts back. I got one back out of 3 that I did. And it was an exemption, And so this last one, the Legend of Harryman Road, I rushed to put that out because stuff was happening in real time. So there was a guy who reached out to me who was along one of the Brushy Creek trails after the first documentary came out. And he said that he was a military guy and he was rucking. I guess that's the term they use when they have all their gear. He was rucking down the trail. And a woman had approached him saying that she thought she was being followed by someone in the brush. Okay. Military guy. He's going to school for law and stuff like that. So he goes back there to confront the person. He doesn't see anybody, but he sees a head poking out, and he takes 2 pictures. Those pictures are in the Legend of Hairy Man Road, and you can clearly see a head, eyes, and a nose. You can clearly see it. Gigantic, huge head sticking out, protruding out. And that was interesting, but the story that he told in the background of this guy, he didn't want to be on camera. It took him a long time to actually get him to coax him to be on camera. But we went through with it, and that happened in June 13th. That same day, the Hairy Man Road was closed for a month. I'm not sure if that's coincidence, but that's really strange to me.
Huh. Wonder if they thought people were just going to rush down there and try to look for Sasquatch.
Well, from what I know, I'm the only one he sent that picture to, from what I know. So no one else knew about what was going on unless the people in that area were talking. I have no idea. Or maybe the woman called the authorities. I'm not sure. But
well, I've probably got 40 clear images of Sasquatch, all from Florida.
Right.
But that's all they do. That's all they're going to give you, poking their head out.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's a dead giveaway when you see a video and there's this creature up walking through the woods, head down, kind of kicking the dirt. It's just not the normal behavior for these creatures. It's, you know, they're usually hiding and just poking out and looking at you. So I kind of give a second look to anything else. Not that they wouldn't do it. I mean, I saw one walking through the woods. He wasn't out in the open. He was being slick. I could just barely see him. But I eventually got a really good look at him. And so I know they do that, but just to be up and not be trained on you doesn't seem to be the normal Sasquatch behavior. To me, we'd have a lot more evidence of them if that was the case, that they just did that.
Well, the fact that you mentioned, you know, you don't see them, you know, rarely see them walking around or whatever. So when I was working on this documentary, I had put out in some Facebook groups in the area, hey, has anybody, you know, heard of anything or had any experiences? Multiple people told me to reach out to this one guy, talk to this guy. So I reached out to him. And what I got back was, sorry, Eric, I did see something there, but I had to turn in all my evidence to the authorities. And I can't talk about it. I signed a non-disclosure agreement. And that's kind of where it ended. After pestering him for days, he says, look, I have the thing, I have all this stuff. I have messages and everything. He says, I saw whatever being was down there, living down there. I told the local authorities about it. We had a cave-in that same year. Gigantic cavern structure was found. He says, I saw whatever was living down there. I took a video of it, and the people, he put it in that group. That's why the people had told me to contact this guy. People had seen the video. It was only up for like 30 minutes, but they saw a tall, really skinny black thing walking near the creek. People saw that, and it was immediately taken down. And so he said that, you know, look, I was raided, all right? I was raided. The FBI came. They took all my computers. They took everything, and they made me sign this non-disclosure agreement, and I'm not going to say anything else. So I was like, okay, whatever. You know, I didn't believe him. I found out where he lived. Don't ask me how. I found out where he lived, all right? And so I reached out to someone that I knew that lived in that same neighborhood. And I said, hey, have you heard about this crazy guy talking about how he, you know, was raided by the FBI or whatever? And the guy's like, oh, yeah, he did get raided. That happened. That's a fact. I remember because the neighborhood was closed. Nobody could come in or out. So that happened. That really happened. And I don't really like talking about things that I don't have data for. But I mean, everything I'm talking about now, I have data for. I have these messages. I have messages, people telling me to contact this guy. Right. It's a real thing that's happening, you know, in real time here. It hasn't stopped. It's continuing. Like I said, the last body was in 2019. In 2020, there was no body found, but that could be because of the coronavirus. There was a lot of stuff going on. But in October, that's kind of one of the hot times of the year stuff happens. There was a girl that went missing, okay? She went missing along the Brushy Creek. She was last seen carrying a blue velvet suitcase and a Victorian doll. Now, that's not really necessities you need when you're out in the brush. You know, you don't really need those things.
Right.
And I've always, you know, like I said before, I think they were doing some type of ritualistic gifting, stuff like that. I'm not saying that's what she was doing, but it's pretty strange that she was last seen carrying that stuff along the Brushy Creek. Luckily, they did find her, all right? They found her. But from what I've heard from other people is that she's not the same. She's not all there. She's a bit traumatized for whatever happened. I've been trying to get in touch with the family, but she's a a minor, so it's kind of hard to, figure all that stuff out. But like I said, it's an ongoing thing, man. In 2018, there was a body that we have no idea how it was in 2018 that found in another body of water. We have no idea how he died. It was one sentence: body found by pond, near this area. That was it. We never got a follow-up. We never got a name. We never got anything. So like I said, it's an ongoing thing, and they're really good at covering up what's going on here. They're amazingly good at it. And maybe they're leaking some stuff just to get some more information. I'm not really sure, but I mean, it's an ongoing thing. And I know I've probably missed so much other stuff that I meant to talk about, but I just get to rambling, and I just lose myself.
Well, no, it's very interesting what's going on, and just the amount of work that you've had to do, and just doing the due diligence, and you doing that is hats off to you.
I appreciate that.
Not a lot of people are taking it upon themselves, because when it comes to this subject, we have to do it ourselves. No one, there's no funding to help anyone. In my mind, if you're going to get anything good, decent, you got to spend some time out there around them. I'm talking serious time, years.
No, you're right.
That you got to have to pay somebody to do that. No, who can do that?
Yeah, and like I said, it hasn't stopped. Stuff has still been going on this year. That's why I wanted to rush to do that last documentary, is because it was still happening. That sighting, they got the picture. The Brushy Creek was closed, and I did a live stream walking down the Brushy Creek. There was no construction going on. There was absolutely no construction going on. It was just a closed road. You'd see one utility car drive, every 20 minutes. Made no sense. They didn't do any construction on it.
Did you ask and try to find out why it was closed?
They said it was for maintenance. Maintenance. They had utility signs saying, hey, it's going to be closed for, I believe they were like adjusting the shoulder of the road, but I didn't see any changes when we walked down there. Like I said, I saw a utility truck drive by every 20 minutes. That's all I saw. I didn't see anybody doing any real construction out there. So
sounds like city employees to me. No,
yeah,
I used to work for City of Hattiesburg. I was a traffic signal technician, and look, that's 8 hours, and that's it. Nothing extra. Yeah. There's no overtime happening. You see the guys around where I live in the city driving by doing 20 miles an hour down the road, milking that clock, buddy. Standing on the shovel, holding the shovel up. Not disparaging anyone that works for the city. I'm sure you work very hard. That you work for the city. My brother-in-law works for the city, and I'm sure he would lambaste me right now if he heard me saying that, just going by what I witnessed.
No, I agree with you 100%. Now, it just brought another thing to my mind. In the Legend of Harry Man Road, and when I did the Beast of Brushy Creek, I got approached by a researcher, brilliant researcher. I'm planning on doing a live stream with him maybe next week. Amazing guy, in a bunch of information.
Who is it?
I can't say his name. I don't want to say his name. I don't know if I have permission to say his name.
Okay.
Because he was disguised in the documentary. We had to.
Oh, okay. I got you. If he's a researcher, we might know him.
Yeah. Well, he's a guy from Texas, and he flies really low under the radar, for good reasons, very good reasons.
Okay.
And so we were out there, and he contacted me saying that. Long story short, he took me right off the Harry Man Road, about 30 yards off the Harry Man Road. He showed me this bent T-post, okay, from a barbed wire fence. Now, you're from Texas. I'm sure you're familiar with T-posts and putting in barbed wire fence. For a person to bend that, I don't think anybody who's not like in these strongman competitions would be able to bend a T-post like that. It looked like a banana, okay? And he found tracks leading up to it. He was there researching a recent sighting that had happened. Found tracks leading up to it. Found a T-post bent like a banana. It's in the documentary. And no tracks on the other side or anything, but just seeing that, how can you explain that away? That's physical data right there. There was no trees in there. No tree would have fallen on it. Made no sense. The only thing I can think of is that something rested its hand on there, hopped the fence, and without even knowing, just bent it without much force at all. Like they just casually just kind of did it.
Yeah. To just see one, I mean, usually they'll string barbed wire on them. But to just see one, to just see one, and the worst headache I ever gave myself was driving a T-post.
Yep.
You get
Yeah,
that
man.
driver a little bit too high and it
Yes.
catches oil right back on you. Done it.
That same researcher showed me photos he had taken along the Brushy Creek, a little bit further from the Harryman Road, but he showed me a coyote tied into a knot, turned inside out, tied into a knot. Those pictures in the documentary. How can you explain that away? You can't. I mean, you can see that it's clearly turned inside out. You can see the knot where it was tied. Like, what other proof? It's put that all together with the FBI search, the history of the area, the people that have been here for thousands of years. I mean, who knows, and there's so many other stories and anecdotes I could say, but like I said, I like having data for whatever I talk about. And there's so much data here that you could, take it to court.
There is. There's a lot, and not just there, but anywhere you go, if you really look and pay attention, things start to become self-evident, and it becomes more of a chore to deny what's going on than it is to actually buy into these existence of these creatures. Some people just don't want to believe it, and it's kind of understandable. Everyone has their own pristine little existence in their own little world, and people that frequent the woods a lot, they don't want to believe there's something like that out there. Most of them, I would say. I would estimate a lot of them. They just don't pay any attention to it.
They just don't want to believe it's out there, even with all the evidence and stuff. People don't want to think there's an aggressive Sasquatch killing people along the Brushy Creek Trail.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what's happening, but geez, there's a lot of, there's that, or there's a serial killer who just likes to do really terrible things, and the local authorities are just inept. They're not able to figure out what's going on. Who knows? And there's a lot of other stuff that I'm not going to talk about because I'm still researching it. And there could be another death that happened in 2016. But I haven't really connected all the dots. It's a very odd and strange death to a police officer. And it made no sense at all. And it could be related somehow. I'll just say the last thing this police officer said as transmission to the radio, 2 people running to the creek. And then after that, they found him. And that's all I'm going to say. Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, when the reach to deny something becomes longer than the evidence that confirms something, then people just don't want to know. But how big of a populated area are we talking about here? Is it a lot of people?
Now it's a very populated area. It's overly populated. But when this was happening, it was getting to become like a boom town. There was a lot more construction going on, and that could be what's, I say construction, it's more like deconstruction. The areas are literally like a lot of the caverns and stuff, like the one that you saw in the live stream. There's a gate over it now. There's a gate over it. Not only is there a gate over it, that whole area is fenced off, like tall fences, like really fenced off. I mean, it makes no sense to me. And I have pictures of those. I should have included that in the live stream that I did, but it's gated off now. Like a lot of these caverns and tunnel systems, they've cemented up. You can go there and you can see where they've cemented it up, cemented over. So they're not only covering it up, they're literally covering it up. Like that's what they're doing. Like I said, the guy who said he found that being, that was right after the cave-in happened. And that cave-in, man, they tried to cement over that many times, and they failed many times, because I remember the news reports. The news reports would be like, okay, an 8th chamber found in the cavern system, a 9th chamber found in the cavern system. It just kept going on. And after like the 12th one, you didn't hear about it anymore. They just kept finding chamber after chamber after chamber. And then it was just like, okay, you're not reporting on this anymore. Closed subject. And I went to try to find that cave-in, and I could not find it. I was talking to locals in the area. I don't know if they put a building over it or if they put like a water tank. I have no idea what they did, but they covered the entrance to it. So that's a theme here. They're literally, figuratively and literally covering things up, as the years progress. It's a fact, it's really strange and odd. Well, I have no explanation for it.
To me, it's just a matter of time because this is a fact. These creatures are out there. How many there are, we can debate all these different things about them. What's not debatable, what is an objective truth, is that they are there. Now, whatever or whoever is trying to hold it down, you can't do it forever. It's just a matter of time before it becomes really out in the open, especially the more people start to move, and especially down in Florida in this area. You're talking about a fence. A friend of mine built the area we went and shot the last film is connected to an area that is surrounded by a 10-foot fence. It was put there in the 90s. Okay. A 10-foot chain link fence with razor wire, but they were facing it out toward the road. Mm-hmm. They made them come back and face it in. That's to keep something in.
Exactly.
Not to keep people out. Why would they even said, well, why would you face it in? And they didn't give them an answer. They said, this is how we want it. So they took them 3 days. They had to go back to this whole section and put this razor wire. And you can see it in this place. When you go down there, you can actually see it. So what are they keeping in? Look, we say it all the time. I'm going to keep my dog in my yard.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're talking about that razor wire fence. That's exactly what we have here along the Brushy Creek Trail, which is supposed to be a friendly trail for people to take their kids and jog on. Gigantic, like 10 feet tall fences with razor wire and brush that is just so much brush, it's like coming through the fence. Right. And that doesn't really signal a really safe environment to me that you want to go out jogging or whatever, especially when they're finding bodies in the area. But
there's when is there ever a reason, especially in Texas? There's no bears. There's no bear for you to worry about around. Mountain lion. You're still not going to put up a 10-foot fence for anything like that. There's just not enough of a population of those. Exactly. So what's it for? Is it to keep something in or to keep people out? Probably both, I would assume.
Yeah, I think it's both. And like I said, the guy who was found 77 years old, okay, how would he be able to get over that fence and crawl down and, and I don't, after, whatever, he didn't look like he was in the best shape or whatever, he's a 77-year-old man. And
it was a 10-foot fence?
It was a big, I believe it was 10-foot fence. I'm not sure if it was razor wire, but it had barbed wire at the top. Barbed wire at the top. I've gone down there, for him to scale that fence. Come on, what is that? Yeah. He wouldn't have been able to do it. And it was
not without getting really messed up.
No, so why was he down there? Why have other people been down there? No trauma, no foul play on any of these 12, 8 something bodies that have been found out there. We have no idea. We still don't know the cause of death for any of these people. We don't know. And if it's, you'd think you'd get one that was like, oh, he drowned, or he had, heart attack or whatever. Right. They didn't say that. Even with the old man, they just said he was found. That's it. Didn't say anything about, whatever.
Yeah, it seems like if an autopsy's done, they're going to know if someone drowned.
Exactly.
And that's what they would say.
Exactly, 100%. So, I'm trying to continue following the story. And like I said, I'm doing more Freedom of Information Acts. Planning on doing another documentary once I get these Freedom of Information Acts. Hopefully I'll have some new information. But like I said, I'm researching a possible 4th death that happened in 2016. I don't want to say too much about it because it's incredibly controversial. But
with the officer,
exactly, and even the wife of the officer, she's very she doesn't believe what they're telling her about what happened. She says there's absolutely no way. So who knows? And hopefully, I'm going to try to do a Freedom of Information Act on that one. That one will probably get me in some trouble, but I've gotten threats working on this stuff. I've gotten a few.
Yeah, they probably know exactly who you are. They watching everything you do. And hey, look, I never got threatened, but I didn't dig like you're digging.
Well, I think once I did the Freedom of Information Act, that was like, okay, we need to do something about this. Yeah. And I've gotten voicemails. I've got one that I still have, and it's a really weird, odd voicemail, but it's clearly a threat. So they're telling me to stop, give it up. You're terrible. Like all this other stuff. Like no one's pays attention. No one's going to listen. All this, like, come on now. whatever.
Well, it's beginning to get more and more. You know, the documentaries seem to get viewed more than just for us anyway. And I hope everyone that's watching this goes and checks out. If they haven't, I've seen the Brushy Creek one.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's been a little bit. It's been a little while, but I haven't seen the other one. So yeah, The Legend of Hairy Man Road. I definitely want to go watch that. And
that one's more about
everyone else does too.
Yeah, that one's more about the recent stuff. That was filmed in 2000. Well, that was filmed this year, and the bulk of that stuff happened this year. I mean, we even found a footprint. There was a tiny, tiny footprint. This was right before the big freeze happened in Texas, right before Valentine's Day. A barefoot, a mud print, tiny footprint. Why would a kid be out there barefoot in freezing temperatures?
Single footprint?
Sense. One footprint. That's all we found. One mud footprint, tiny, really small. I mean, in freezing temperatures.
Yeah.
Absolutely no sense. So, I mean, you know, there's just so much data here. People need to look at it. Guys, the FBI was involved in a search for Bigfoot. That's a fact. That cannot be disputed. And I sound like a broken record. There's data to prove that. Like, it's real. Like, guys, there's a wanted poster the FBI put out looking for it. You could say it's a joke or whatever. The guy who put that out is in charge of secret information in military bases. You know, that's can't be disputed. It's a fact.
Well, it doesn't matter if you say I regurgitate the same stuff here every time I come on. So I mean, people are not tired of listening to that yet. Why? I don't know. But I do. I say the same thing all the time.
Well,
never changes until I come up with something else. You know, some other idea. Here's somebody else's idea.
And I hope I'm not scaring Daniela over there. She's been kind of quiet, but
no, I'm listening intently. I'm just going to put a link up now to your channel in the chat so people can go and check you out.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll make sure there's a link in the description also.
It's already there. It's already there.
Thank you.
For the documentaries. We'll put those.
Oh.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Or I'll do it. I'll do it later.
The information, the information I'm telling you is in the documentaries. You know, there's documentation, there's the posters in there, the emails in there, all that other stuff is in there. The news reports are in there. It's there if you guys want to check it out. If you want to do the digging yourself, you can do it as well.
Man, I have zero time for it. I'm trying to finish a film now I've been editing for 6 months.
I know how that goes.
And I had 18 people and 31 devices filmed for a week straight.
Oh, yeah.
Almost 3 terabytes of footage from that many devices. Yeah, just trying to go through it. It's a nightmare just to go through. Is it 4K? Some of it's 4K.
That's even worse. That's even worse.
The bad thing is it's not all filmed in the same bit rate. Just uploading it, uploading it takes, and they did hour and 20-minute clips.
Oh man.
Yeah. So even after me telling them 2 to 5 minute clips, 2 to 5 minute clips.
Yeah.
So the camera got turned on, it was just left on. So I'm uploading 3 hours to upload, and then I got to pull the timeline, let it render before I can even touch it. So, and I work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's hard to do. And then none of it's labeled right. I've got stuff from one camera put on another disc with other stuff. And it's been a nightmare to go through and do. I've got it almost done. The first episode anyway. And the second one hopefully won't take quite as long since I've got a good base, but it's coming. I just I want to get through Spook Week for sure and take some time away from live for a couple of days. And even though we'll be back next Wednesday with a show, I've got a guest for there. So, but hey, look, Eric, we're coming up to the end of our hour, man. We certainly appreciate it. It's very, very interesting stuff you're doing. Hope everyone goes and watches The Legend of Hairy Man, Beast of Brushy Creek.
Brushy Creek, yeah.
Brushy Creek. How long ago did you make that?
That one came out in this year. I want to say April, but it took me 2 years to make. It took me 2 years to make that, yeah. Look, when you're doing it, and if you're anything like me, you want it perfect and actually to mean something when it gets out there, and not just something you went in the woods and filmed and put out. Right.
They actually have a narrative to it. It takes a long time. It just does. And I know people understand, appreciate that, especially anyone that's ever tried to do it themselves. It's a task. But hey, look, we appreciate you coming. Tomorrow is our last day It's the last day of Spook Week. And who's going to be here? Miss Nance Warren from Buckeye Bigfoot. And she's going to be bringing some scary Bigfoot stories. And we're going to talk about those when she gets here. So, Eric, thanks again. Everyone, go and subscribe to Media Palace on YouTube right now. Thanks again for showing up. Thank you, Daniela. Awesome show. Good night, everybody.
Good night.